Oh, yeah. What's going on, everybody? I am back with a new episode of the Conscious Approach podcast. JV Wins here. I thought I'd spend a video talking about this Paul Pierce situation. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, if you follow sports, you're probably aware of what's going on with Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce is an ex-NBA player. The majority of his career played for the Boston Celtics, won a championship in 2008. He was the Finals MVP that year, much to the chagrin of Kobe fans like myself who were rooting for the Lakers. After his run with the Celtics, he went on to play for the Wizards, the Clippers, and I believe the Brooklyn Nets before finally retiring. I think his last team was the Clippers. It was either the Clippers or the Wizards, but I don't know. Whoever his last team was. Those are the teams he played for after the Celtics. Went on to have a post-playing career in the media with the worldwide leader ESPN. And last week, he went live on his IG. I'm not sure if it was his home or the home of a friend, but there were strippers around. There was drinking and smoking. And apparently that was too much for ESPN, who foresaw that this could potentially be a problem, and they canned him. So Paul Pierce, a victim of what can happen when you live out your private life on social media and how that can compromise your employment situation. Paul Pierce was fired by ESPN. Now, first, I want to say that I have been seeing a fair bit of content creators on YouTube and by extension social media who have tried to assert that what happened to Paul Pierce was wrong by pointing to a double standard that they believe is the source of why what happened to Paul Pierce was not right. I've seen a lot of people people love to default to Cardi B to try and make a point about double standards in society. And sometimes it applies, but I think in this case, not necessarily. But I've been seeing, people talk about it on comments and in YouTube videos where they're saying, why is it okay for Cardi B to get on social media and talk about WAP? But if Paul Pierce gets on an actual video with strippers, there's a problem and he needs to go. I guess they're trying to suggest that there is a double standard inherent in the way that men and women are able to sort of be themselves and, provide an extension of their private lives on social media, and women aren't as penalized for it as men are. So somebody like Cardi B can get away with it, but somebody like Paul Pierce cannot. In certain cases, I'm willing to go along or at least entertain that notion. I think in this case with Paul Pierce, that's intellectual laziness. Cardi B is essentially her own entity. Whatever she does on social media, her employer is not going to be held to account for that. I don't even know that Cardi B has an employer. I know that she has endorsements, but there is a difference between working for ESPN, thereby Disney, and being Cardi B, a hip hop star, and essentially being able to do whatever you want as a hip hop star, so long as it truly isn't offensive. So I think that argument is intellectual laziness, and I kind of just disregard that. Now, having said that, what happened to Paul Pierce is, to me, once again, unfortunate. I think just like as in the case with Nick Cannon, and just like what happened with Gina Carano, I think that Paul Pierce being fired sucks. I don't agree with it. I think that it was wrong. But, we are now fully entrenched in the American moral police state, unfortunately. And the moral police state dictates that corporate brand efficacy, right? So corporate brand efficacy and the protection of the sensibilities of people, as unreasonable as the protection of those sensibilities can be at times, is of the utmost importance. And if you are someone who compromises the balance of protecting those sensibilities and maintaining corporate branding efficacy, you will be dealt with. And so what happened with Paul Pierce as an employee of ESPN and Disney is he was dealt with, because God forbid you can't be on Instagram Live enjoying, providing people with a snippet of your private life, enjoying strippers and smoking and drinking. That's just too amoral for a lot of people. And so he had to go as a result. I think it sucks. I don't agree with it. And I wish that we lived in a society that didn't police people's morality based on what they do on social media. But this is the climate that we live in. This is the culture that we live in. This is what social media has birthed. And quite frankly, I think corporations and entities like ESPN and Disney are only responding to the current climate. If we as people didn't jump to social media to apply righteous indignation and seek retribution for people for saying and doing things that we might not necessarily agree with, or that might fly in the face of our personal sensibilities, I don't think that some of this stuff would be so stringent. But because these are the times that we live in and social media has become this ubiquitous force, these corporations are forced to kowtow to these general ideas, and people end up getting fired. I spoke on it before. I'll continue to speak on it from time to time when necessary. It sucks, but it is what it is. But here's the overall point that I want to make when it comes to what happened with Paul Pierce. You know, social media has become an unbelievably powerful and ubiquitous force in our culture. It's everywhere. It's a part of what we do. It is ingrained into the very fiber of our beings. It is a part of our very nature intrinsically. It's just intertwined with our lives on a daily basis. Now, you can argue that that's a good thing. I tend to argue that it's not necessarily the best thing in the world. Part of the reason why is because, due to the fact that it's become just as intertwined with our very existence as eating and sleeping and breathing, people use it as an extension of themselves to the point where they don't think about the consequences that can come from their use of it. And that's what we see with Paul Pierce. He clearly, because as a public figure, he uses social media on a regular basis to promote himself or his platform, either didn't care about the consequences that can come from putting that on IG Live, or he didn't consider it. Because social media has become so much a part of who he is, why would there be consequences for, me going live on Instagram with strippers and smoking and drinking? This dynamic has had a trickle-down effect to the rest of society, where most people who spend far too much time on social media use it as an extension of their personal situations and their personal lives. And they say, there are no consequences for the way that I use social media because it is real. It's a part of me. So if I can do this in my private time, why can't I do it in my social media time? It's all the same. But what a lot of these public figures and celebrities are unfortunately learning is that it's not all the same, and there are consequences. And pretty soon, people in their private lives are going to be facing those consequences as well, because that moral, righteous indignation train, it ain't going to stop. It's just going to continue to flow until it reaches the general population. I see the wave moving, and it ain't no stopping it. Now, what's a consequence for people today, in my opinion, is sort of, the ubiquitous nature of social media and the way we use it and how we're so intertwined with it, has created a dynamic in which people really believe it to be real life. And the problem with it is, as you spend 6 to 7 hours on your feed, life is passing you by. Furthermore, you are being complicit in not living life for yourself, but allowing others to live it for you. So we're not learning new skills anymore. We're not outside anymore. We're not actually socializing anymore. We're just basically becoming proxies of our social media realities. And we're living life on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. That's the immediate consequence and ramification based on the dynamic that I've seen with what has played out with situations like what happened with Paul Pierce. But I foresee that it's only going to get worse. As issues like mental health continue to be at the forefront of what's going on in our society, the more that we lean on these things to sort of be extensions of our actual existence, the more perverse and decadent our society is going to become. Now, I know that that's getting real deep, but on the surface, just think about it like this. If Paul Pierce can teach you anything, it is that perhaps you can spend a little less time being glued to your feeds and your timelines per day. because it's frying your brain cells. Like these things social media might as well be a microwave and you're sticking your head in the microwave every time you turn on your feed. Now, if you're making money doing it, more power to you. I'm not going to stop you. But you have a lot of people out here who aren't monetizing social media in any kind of way. They're merely using it as a form of escapism. And they're not living life, they're allowing others to live life for them. This is affecting the way we look at dating and relationships. This is affecting the way people socialize with one another. It's affecting everything. It's like we're becoming bots. And in that moment where Paul Pierce said, I'm going to go live on Instagram with these strippers and my blunt and my cup playing this poker, he was a bot and he was a robot. And he was saying, I'm going to be heralded for this because whatever people tend to do on social media, so long as it truly isn't offensive, tends to be heralded. But as we saw, ESPN said we got to get out in front of this. This Disney, this might be a little too amoral for us to combat. We might have to let Paul Pierce go. And Paul Pierce got fired. Paul Pierce wasn't the best commentator in the world, but damn, he didn't deserve necessarily to be canned. They're certainly far worse talking sports and basketball in particular on ESPN, but none of them are going live on Instagram being around strippers. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, man. In my estimation, if there's anything that we can take away from what happened with Paul Pierce, I would say that, if you are someone who is feeling as though you might be spending too much time consuming social media, get off of it. The only way to fix this is to get off of social media. Just get off. I'm not saying go cold turkey, but spend a little less time on it a day. Go outside, read a book, pick up a book, learn a new skill. Or better yet, if you got to use social media, use it to learn a new skill. Now, I know a lot of that is going on, but I'm talking to the majority of the population who primarily consume it as a form of escapism. Times is tough out there, man, and we just got to be able to roll with the punches. But we got to get off the social media to a certain degree before we become bots. Next thing you know, you're getting called into your boss's office because you put some Instagram post out that you deleted but got screenshotted, and now you're on suspension or you got fired. You're gonna have to either adapt to this climate and survive, or you're going to get canceled, privately or publicly, however you prefer. But it's going to happen eventually. Take it from me, I use social media to leverage my platform from time to time. I might post about what's going on privately, but otherwise I'm off, unplugged from the matrix, and I'm all the better for it. And I think that for a lot of y'all out there, especially because some of y'all out there ain't got no business with a social media profile, as unstable as you are, and y'all know who I'm talking about. But it just goes to say this stuff is becoming deeply intertwined with who we are as people and our very natures and existences. And until we learn how to be more responsible and unplug from it, consequences are going to come. And we need to understand that we need to be held account for those actions. And the first step to understanding accountability is knowing beforehand that if you do something, there could be repercussions for that action or that behavior. And I think as time progresses and social media becomes more and more powerful, we're losing sight of the ability to recognize repercussions for those actions and behaviors. And that's what I think we see as an example with what happened with Paul Pierce. But, it is what it is, man. I'm seeing a growing trend and things continue a downward trend, but I have faith in people and I hope that they can recover. But right now, it's kind of scary out there, man. Guard your grill, stand your ground, because things are crazy. And, I guess people aren't going to realize that there's a change that needs to take place until Mount Vesuvius finally erupts. Now, we've had a few minor interruptions, mass shootings and, people storming the Capitol in the name of making America great again. But the major eruption hasn't occurred yet. Hopefully we can stave that off for a very long time. But if things continue along this trajectory, that major eruption is coming. But for now, all I can say is, Ease off of social media a little bit unless you're learning something or leveraging it for monetary gain. Otherwise, modify how you use it and consume it because it's going to fry all your brain cells if you don't. To Paul Pierce, man, good luck, buddy. Now, he did go on Twitter and he put up a cryptic tweet saying good things to come or good things on the way or whatever. He seems to not be worried about this, and good for him. Why would he be? He's rich. The rest of us out here aren't so lucky if such a thing were to happen. But I guess good luck to Paul Pierce and all of that kind of stuff. Me personally, the IG video didn't really bother me, but I like to drink. Smoking doesn't offend me, and I don't mind strippers. So I guess for the masses out there, maybe there was a problem with it. But either way, I'm not in his personal life. I don't know what's going on with him. All I know is the moral police state is indeed an issue. And what he did is representative of our continued, sort of reliance on social media to be a part of our everyday existence to the point where it's just intertwined with us by nature. It's as essential as eating, sleeping, and breathing at this point. And I think that we can dial that back a little bit. But other than that, man, those are my thoughts on what happened with Paul Pierce. Good luck to you, Paul. You'll be good. You rich. I don't actually need to give you any good luck. It is what it is. But, don't hit sin, I guess, as my buddy Dave used to say when we did these videos before. Just don't hit sin, man. And I mean, this train gonna keep on rolling, man. Just try not to get canceled and make sure you be careful. But what happened to Paul Pierce was wrong. He shouldn't have gotten fired. But at this point, I'm so numb to people getting fired for stuff that I don't think they should get fired for. I'm over it. So that'll be it for the commentary in this particular episode. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Follow the Facebook page, Conscious Approach. You can also follow me on Facebook, Javis Ogden, JAVIS OGDEN. I'm also on Twitter, JVWins. If you like the commentary in this video and you're watching on YouTube, feel free to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. I certainly do appreciate it. If you're watching this on Facebook, definitely share the video. I also appreciate that as well. Or don't, it's okay if you don't. I'm not trying to make you do something on social media that you don't want to do. But otherwise, man, Paul Pierce, I still hate you from 2008. You killed Kobe from winning championship number 4 at the time. It pissed me off. I'll never forgive you for that. Rest in peace to Kobe. And until next time, this is another video in the books. I'll see you later. Peace.